Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus Today. Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the failures of pretty much everything that is woke. Whether it be the movies, the Ghostbusters disastrous flop, or the more recent flops from Disney and other studios. Now they've done these remakes. They've taken a very successful franchise that's done and is doing very well, and they try and impregnate it with, the globalist messaging, and that includes the introduction of LGBTQ characters, very implausible girl bosses, and the putting down of straight white men, or straight men in particular. Or straight men rather, and straight white men in particular, putting them down and making them look stupid or ridiculous or just plain evil and so on. 100-pound scrawny girl chicks, beating the shit out of 250-pound roided out muscle guys and all this sort of stuff. And it's quite ridiculous and implausible, but this desire to push the globalist message, and which is straight white men get out the way. The globalist, we're imposing the globalist government on you, and there's no place for people that want free and fair elections. There's no place for people who want honest and open government. There's no place for people who want independent courts and the rule of law, and there's no place for people who want quality education for their children, and so on. So, and if you oppose mass migration, or if you oppose drag queens going into schools to read lurid stories to 5-year-olds, then you're the problem, and we're going to make movies and all sorts of propaganda to tell you that, and tell you to get out the way, and remind you that you're now irrelevant in this new world order. So this is the thing now. So we'll use a recent example as, say, the Mad Max Furiosa. No, I haven't seen it, by the way, but certainly given the current trends of it was released on the most optimal time of the year, the Memorial Day weekend in the United States, and that's usually been a time when, if the movie's any good, it'll do make quite a lot of its money at that time, just on that weekend alone. So now this is not the case with Mad Max Furiosa. It's given its budget. I think it was somewhere around 165 million production cost, and then it's being slated at on or about 200 million in various marketing and promotional costs. So it's got to recoup somewhere around 370 million dollars just to break even. Now, on current trends, and assuming the proportion of business done on Memorial Day is going to be, this movie is going to lose a ton of money, and a bit like the Indiana Jones thing, where they made an idiot out of Indiana Jones and stuck the girl boss in there. Again, all very implausible, very heavy-handed, ham-fisted, piss-poor scripts and so on. Special effects weren't too bad. Then they're going to lose, and they lost a lot of money on that. Now, you'd think that the Disney studios' endless losses, one after the other. You think, if it was a business, a commercial business, any commercial business anywhere in the world that's got shareholders and this sort of thing would say, "Hey, hold on, we can't make movies that lose money. This formula that this very political, very politicized formula we're shoving into these movies isn't drawing in a new audience, or a fresh audience, or a different audience, and we're losing our traditional audience, and thus we're losing shit tons of money. So we've got to stop doing this propaganda stuff. We've got to go back to making movies that the viewing public want to see." Now, we're all screaming leftist, LGBTQ, communist Marxists here. And if that is the case, what are we doing trying to run a commercial business? That's another question. But anyway, if it was a commercial business, they're responsible to the shareholders and so on. They just wouldn't make these, after one or two failures, assuming they even went down this propaganda path in the first place, they would say, okay, well, it's not working out. our job, our duty to the shareholders, to the employees, is to make movies that the public want to see. Now, they didn't do that, and there's a lot of sort of almost bewildered sort of videos on YouTube saying, and they made another loss-making movie. I don't know what's happening. Why aren't they learning their lesson? Shouldn't they have woken up to it now that if you go woke, you go broke? And why haven't they worked it out? I mean, they must be seriously stupid to do it. No, I don't think it's that. I think we need to look at it from the other end of the telescope, if you will. What they're doing. Imagine that every woke movie that's put out, in fact, is a gauge, a barometer to gauge the public's, the penetration of the overall brainwashing. So if you make the leftist LGBTQ girl boss movie, and nobody watches it, or it loses a shit ton of money, or you expect, I'll use round numbers, you expect an audience of 1 million, for example, but you only get 500,000, then that's not the failure of that you've made a crap movie. That's not that. That is now a gauge of how many globalist brainwashed people are out there. So if the people turning up for the movie are half what you expect, or half what's budgeted for, then that's your gauge that half the population, or more than half, or whatever, that's your gauge to say, look how much more work we need to do. There's so much more work to do. We have a lot of work to do. We haven't yet brainwashed the rest of the people. And this is the proof. Here we've got the evidence, we've got the numbers, we've got the receipts that half the population, or more than half, or 2/3, or whatever, are not converted by. Now, it's different when you do, say, a political poll, and would you vote for this or that party, or this or that candidate? People may not necessarily answer. They've got your phone number, they've got your address. Oh, gee, you know what I'll do? I'll just say I don't know, and then that'll get rid of them. But in the case of a movie, it's a very independent way, if you like, or surreptitious, if you prefer, clandestine way of determining how many people are brainwashed out there. Now, if you get you do an obvious, well, if you look at the promotion for Furiosa, certainly on the promotional materials, it appears as if it's going to be a girl boss movie. Again, I haven't seen it, but for those who have seen it, they don't seem to be speaking highly of it. But and just on the strength of the presentation, as in through the promotional materials, just on the strength of the presentation, people have stayed away from it. Now, it's got a couple of big names in it, like Chris Hemsworth, and it's got a decent enough budget, for goodness sakes. The promotion, I thought, was pretty much all over the place. I mean, the amount of just on YouTube alone, the amount of adverts that have come out for it, it hasn't had a skinny promotional budget, far from it. And in spite of all that, they still couldn't gin up a decent Memorial Day weekend. The one weekend of the year when, if you're going to kick ass, that's it. They still couldn't do it. But they don't appear concerned, as in we produced a crap movie. They don't seem concerned about it in that way. They seem concerned about, well, that just shows how many Nazis are out there, doesn't it? Because anyone that doesn't come to see the Girl Boss movie is a fascist and a Nazi, quite possibly Hitler personally, quite possibly Hitler. So we can condemn them all as fascist, Nazi, racist, bigot, and that just shows how much more work we have to do. So instead of stopping making these movies, we have to make twice as many, 3 times as many, 4 times as many movies until we have everyone brainwashed. And now you might say, well, hold on a minute, these private companies, these commercial businesses with shareholders and stock market and they can't afford to do this. Well, you need to look at the wider picture here of the economics of propaganda. And this is really, I suppose, to some extent what this video is about. When it comes to propaganda, the normal commercial rules do not apply. So out on the, if you like, on the, in the front room, you've got the ticket sales and the promotional cost, the cost of making the movie. You've got all, and you look at that and say, well, gee, these guys are going to lose 100 million, 200 million, or more on this movie. Now, if they're producing 5, 6, 7 movies in the year, and they're all losing, 100 to 250 million a piece. That's more than a billion with a B, that's gone down the plug hole there. I mean, wow, that this no commercial company, be they big behemoth like Disney or anyone, no commercial company can do that. But that's not what's happening, because in the back room, so the front room's the ticket sales and so on, but in the back room, there's a whole lot of other stuff going on, which means they're actually not really losing money. So they're getting huge donations, which is effectively money laundering, from NGOs that are able to claim tax exemption, because they're tax exempt. So they give effectively a donation to another organisation who's tax exempt, and they're able to do, handle various production and various backroom work, so that really the cost of the movie in terms of tax write-off is far less than it actually was. On top of that, the government, whether they be state or federal or local, is also giving various handouts, so taxpayer money, and this is in tax credits, accelerated tax write-offs, deferred tax payments, or if they spend any money amongst black lesbians or something, then they get 5 times the tax write-off, and so on and so. So there's a whole lot of things going on in the back room, and that are either tax exempt, or again accelerated tax write-offs, or effectively charity handouts, gifts of money coming either from the taxpayer or from a George Soros front or something like that. So the reality is that their loss of $100 million or $200 million is in fact all written off. It's a special propaganda delivery fund, if you like. It's all being written off, and so they're not really losing that money. So they're being protected through varying sources in varying ways, through the back room, through accounting procedures and so on. Government handouts, the whole business, and once you start picking through these, and it would take sort of some days to actually do the serious drill down. But I've done a superficial sort of quick once over on some of the accounts here, and you can spot the hold on a minute, what's going on, and you can spot that they're not only being encouraged, if not told, by the globalist cabal to produce this propaganda, given it paves the way for the New World Order, but they're being financially protected from losses. So that's what's going on here. And you notice the same thing, say, in other organizations where, there were companies that, for example, are very big on importing third world peasants in through labor hire scam situations and so on, effectively just bulking up the mass migration thing and bringing black and brown people into the West. That they receive all sorts of indirect protections that aren't obvious up front, but they're being protected from competition. Competitors aren't allowed to enter the market, so because they're performing a service for globalization by bringing in all these peasants to the West. They're protected from market competition. They're being given government contracts that are very juicy, that aren't going out to competitive bids. So they're being, again, the taxpayers funding all this, because they're paying way over the card for goods and services that if there was competitive bids would be available at a much lower price. But so through these various means, preventing competition, giving special tax write-offs, handing out juicy government contracts at premium rates and these sort of things. These companies, because they're performing a service for globalization, are being protected from the losses that in a competitive market they would incur. Because if you're the propaganda czar of the globalist cabal and you go to Disney, look, we need a lot of propaganda from you guys. We want lots of girl box, lots of LGBT. We want every straight white male franchise ripped to pieces. So we want you to do all that. And the executives of Disney was, hey, we'll go bankrupt if we do that. No, that's not a problem. We'll have that taken care of. We'll make sure any loss you incur is compensated for through other means. So you'll be able to do this without, and we'll make sure, look, we've spoken to the boys on Wall Street, they'll make sure the stock price is kept artificially high. So you're all going to get your gazillion-dollar bonuses, the top executives, the CEO, and so on. So these are the things that are going on in the back room, and so every the Doctor Who, the black gay Doctor. A black gay Doctor who goes gay dancing in a gay nightclub. That's something Doctor Who really does. Because the viewership has dwindled to historically low numbers. I don't even believe the claim of the numbers that they say they're getting. But anyway, why is that? Why are the numbers low? Is it because Doctor Who's just absolute rubbish now? No, it's not. It's because of all those fucking Hitlers that are out there. Everybody who's not coming to watch or isn't watching or used to watch is Hitler. So they see this as a barometer. This just shows how many Nazis are out there. It doesn't show a discerning viewing public that wants quality entertainment. No. It shows that the Hitler is everywhere, and we have to do much, much, much more work. We have to arbitrarily imprison more straight white males for anything. Why don't we invent a law saying if a straight white person misgenders someone, they can go to prison? Let's do that. Oh wait, that is what they're doing. So every time that there's any one of these movies or propaganda initiatives, let's call it what it is, not a fucking movie, it's a propaganda initiative, or what fails or doesn't get the traction, then that's proof that there are still lots of Nazis out there, and therefore we've got to double down with all sorts of oppressive laws and arbitrary arrests and so on. The same could be said. You look at the coverage of people who voted for say Donald Trump or some Republican candidates. The leftist, globalist controlled media, the first thing that shows, look at all the Nazis that voted for them. So merely voting for someone that isn't fully on board with the globalist project means you're a Nazi. But it always is, if you're not on board with the globalist project, then you are therefore a Nazi, you are therefore Hitler, and so on. So this is what it is. I think these movies and propaganda delivery systems are really used as indicators, leading indicators or barometers of just how many people out there that they still have the brainwash, and how brutal and oppressive they have to be to get that brainwashing across. You've been fantastic today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.